Hello BookTube! Today I want to bring you a quick review of Vassa in the Night by Sarah Porter. I originally saw this book reviewed on Thoughts on Tomes, which is Sam's channel, I want to say about a year ago, and ever since then I've wanted to get my hands on it. It just sounded really interesting, the sort of thing that I really love to read, and not something that I've heard a whole lot of other people talk about. I mean, I'm sure it went around BookTube last year when it came out, but honestly, I didn't really hear anyone else talking about it. And I think that's kind of a shame because I quite enjoyed this. I gave this book 4 stars, and even while I'm thinking about this, I kind of want to bump it up to 4.5 stars because it was just a really solid, great book, and I think it's really underappreciated around these parts because I mean, it's YA, it's kind of a contemporary fairy tale retelling, is weird and quirky. I really quite enjoyed it. So basically this book is a riff slash retelling of the Vasilisa slash Baba Yaga folklore. It's set in a Brooklyn that has magic and folklore elements, creatures, and folk in it who humans can kind of see and interact with. And it takes place after Baba Yaga has stolen the night, which is part of Baba Yaga's, traditional tale. Only it all takes place in our world, contemporary times in Brooklyn. And basically Baba Yaga, who's known as Babs, runs a convenience store that is literally on chicken feet and dances around in the night. And you have to be really careful because if you go in there and you're caught stealing, she cuts off your head. And the authorities don't do anything. It's weird. Like, that's one of the best ways you can describe this book, is it's really weird. But that works on so many levels because it is a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale retelling. And fairy tales are, in their nature, usually really weird. They can't help but be weird because they are trying to discuss themes and occurrences that are beyond rationality. Vassa is a young girl who has a complicated family relationship. Her father has sired multiple children, her mother has died, and she is currently living with her father's sort of ex-wife along with 2 half-sisters slash stepsisters. And her father has gone off and left her. And she has a wooden doll who was a gift from her mother, who is kind of sentient. It's a live wooden doll she has to keep secret, and who's basically her best friend named Erg. And she has a really good relationship with one of her sisters, actually her stepsister, and she's a really poor relationship with her half-sister. So one of the things is that the nights in Brooklyn have been getting longer and longer and more oppressive. And so her sister challenges her to go to the store to buy light bulbs, and Vassa gets really pissed off and decides to do it. And so she falls into Baba Yaga's trap, presenting 3 challenges over the course of 3 days or 3 nights to a girl is also a very common theme in Baba Yaga tales. You see that occur in, for example, Marya Morevna's story and her encounters with Baba Yaga, for example, in Deathless as well. So it's a common theme in this type of folklore. So to save herself from being killed by Baba Yaga, Vassa has to work in her store, and that presents a challenge every night that she has to complete to survive. So, these are very common motifs in fairy tales. It's not a romance story. Like, there's a little bit of romance, but mostly the romance in this is poking fun at romantic tropes in young adult, which is another one of the reasons I like it. This story is really about family relationships. It's about Vassa's relationship with her stepsister. It's about her relationship with her mother. It's about her relationship to a lesser degree with her father. It's also about her relationships with herself. So there's this great quote at the end that I think kind of sums up one of the overarching themes in the book, and that is, "To free him is to destroy him as he is now, as something that could almost be seen as a man. Almost, but not quite. Not ever. Because being human is a hard lesson to learn, and you really have to start young and practice constantly if you're going to stand a chance of getting good at it." One of these themes is that Vassa is kind of like a half girl. She's not a whole person. She's carrying around a lot of baggage that she's not dealing with. And this story kind of helps her work through grief and figuring out who she is and figuring out who she is as an individual, not as who she is in reference or in relationship or as a product of anyone else, if that makes sense. So it's it's a really weird, bizarre little book. Parts of it feel like Alice in Wonderland. I loved it. I didn't really write any notes for this. I'm kind of just riffing. But yeah, I think it's great. Like I said, the characters are really good. I cried so hard at the end, or very near the end. Like, the characters really, like, tightly gripped and pulled on my heartstrings. I think it had some really good lessons. It's not especially difficult to read. The language is pretty easy to get through, but there is a certain amount of beautiful imagery in it because it's really strange, and it is a little bit like Alice in Wonderland in its imagery. So I think you'll like this if you are interested in Russian folklore and Baba Yaga myths. If you liked Deathless, or if you wanted to like Deathless but Deathless was too difficult to follow, I would suggest picking up this. This is a lot easier to understand. It's a little less literary. It's a little bit more fairy tale-esque. It's a little bit more fabulous. Like, it's a little bit more like a fable. So if you found that book really difficult, but you want that kind of thing, try this. If you like Alice in Wonderland, try this. If you like fairy tale retellings, I would give this a go. If you want a book that is very strong about family relationships, I would check this out. I don't know. I think those are my thoughts. Don't read this if you're looking for romance. It doesn't have it. It really doesn't. But it has a lot of really cool absurdist elements in it. So let me know if you've ever read Vassa in the Night, what you thought of it, or if you're thinking about picking it up. I'd love to hear. And hopefully this review was a little bit helpful, even if it was a little bit more scattered than I prefer my reviews to be. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.